Every day, millions of people throw away the exact ingredients they need to grow abundant food. Vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, and eggshells go straight into the trash, and then those same people drive to the store to buy bags of soil and fertilizer. The irony is remarkable when you stop to think about it. We are paying to dispose of free resources, and then paying again to replace what we just threw away. This cycle wastes money, damages the environment, and keeps us dependent on products we never actually needed. There is a better way, and it takes just 7 days to transform your kitchen waste into some of the richest growing medium you will ever use. The process I am going to share with you is not traditional composting. Regular compost piles take months to break down, and they require space that many people simply do not have. What I discovered after years of experimentation is a rapid decomposition method that produces usable soil amendment in just 1 week. The key is understanding what makes organic matter break down quickly and creating the ideal conditions for that breakdown to happen at an accelerated pace. When you get the formula right, the transformation is almost magical. Material that looked like garbage on Monday becomes dark, crumbly soil by Sunday. The science behind rapid decomposition involves bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms that consume organic matter and convert it into stable humus. These organisms work faster when they have the right balance of carbon and nitrogen, adequate moisture, proper aeration, and warm temperatures. In a traditional compost pile, these conditions occur naturally but slowly. In an accelerated system, we optimize every variable to create an environment where decomposition happens as fast as biologically possible. The organisms do not work harder, they simply work without any of the limitations that slow them down in conventional setups. The first step is collecting the right materials. Not all kitchen waste breaks down at the same rate, and choosing fast decomposing ingredients is essential for the 7-day timeline. Fruit and vegetable scraps are ideal because they are high in moisture and nitrogen, which feeds the bacteria that drive initial decomposition. Coffee grounds are excellent additions that heat up quickly and add valuable nutrients. Crushed eggshells provide calcium and help balance acidity. Fresh grass clippings, if available, accelerate the process dramatically because of their high nitrogen content. Avoid meat, dairy, and oils, which decompose slowly and can create odor problems. The carbon component is equally important. Bacteria need carbon for energy, just as they need nitrogen for protein synthesis. Without enough carbon, the pile becomes slimy and smelly. Without enough nitrogen, it sits cold and inactive. The ideal ratio is roughly 25 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen by weight, though you do not need to measure precisely. Shredded cardboard, torn newspaper, dried leaves, and straw are all excellent carbon sources. I keep a bag of shredded cardboard next to my collection container and add a handful every time I add kitchen scraps. This simple habit maintains the balance automatically. The container you use matters more than most people realize. For rapid decomposition, you need a vessel that retains heat while allowing some air exchange. I use a large plastic storage bin with holes drilled in the sides and bottom. The holes provide aeration, which prevents the anaerobic conditions that cause bad odors and slow decomposition. The plastic walls retain heat generated by microbial activity, which keeps the process running fast. A lid helps maintain moisture levels while still allowing gases to escape. You can also use a wooden box, a metal container, or even a large bucket, as long as you provide adequate drainage and airflow. Location affects speed significantly. Place your container in the warmest spot available because heat accelerates every biological process involved in decomposition. A sunny location works well in cooler weather, while shade might be necessary during hot summers to prevent the pile from drying out. If you are doing this indoors, a warm corner of a garage or basement works fine. The organisms generate their own heat once the process begins, but starting warm helps them get established quickly. Building the pile correctly is where most people make mistakes. Do not simply dump everything in and hope for the best. Layer your materials to create optimal conditions throughout the container. Start with a layer of coarse carbon material like small sticks or crumpled cardboard at the bottom to promote drainage and airflow. Add a layer of kitchen scraps, followed by a layer of carbon material. Continue alternating until your container is full. Each layer should be only a few inches thick to ensure good mixing of materials. Moisture is critical and often overlooked. The pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, damp enough that you can feel wetness, but not so wet that water drips when you squeeze it. Too dry and microbial activity stops. Too wet, and oxygen cannot penetrate, and anaerobic bacteria take over, creating terrible smells and slowing decomposition. Check moisture daily during the 7-day process, and add water if the material feels dry, or add dry carbon material if it feels too wet. Aeration drives the speed of aerobic decomposition. The bacteria that break down organic matter fastest need oxygen to survive. Turning or stirring the pile introduces fresh air and dramatically accelerates the process. For the 7-day timeline, I recommend turning the pile at least once daily and twice daily if possible. Use a garden, fork, a long stick, or even your hands with gloves to mix everything thoroughly. You will notice that the center of the pile is warmer than the edges, which is a sign that decomposition is happening. Turning brings cooler outer material to the hot center, where it can break down quickly. Temperature indicates progress and can guide your management decisions. A properly functioning rapid compost pile will heat up to 130 degrees or higher within the first 2 days. This heat kills weed seeds and pathogens while indicating intense microbial activity. If your pile does not heat up, it probably needs more nitrogen or more moisture. If it overheats and starts to smell like ammonia, it has too much nitrogen and needs more carbon material. A simple compost thermometer helps you track progress, but you can also judge temperature by feel. The center should feel noticeably warm when you insert your hand. By day 3 or 4, you should see significant transformation. The original materials will be losing their distinct identities and blending into a more uniform mass. Colors darken as decomposition progresses. Volume decreases as organic matter converts to more compact forms. The smell should be earthy and pleasant, not sour or rotten. If you detect bad odors, it usually means the pile needs turning to introduce more oxygen, or the moisture level needs adjustment. Day 5 and 6 bring the final stages of rapid decomposition. The pile temperature will begin dropping as the easily decomposable materials are consumed. This cooling is normal and indicates that the most active phase is ending. Continue turning daily to ensure even decomposition throughout. The texture should be increasingly crumbly and soil-like. Individual scraps should be difficult or impossible to identify. The material is approaching readiness for use in your garden. By day 7, you will have produced what I call quick compost. It may not be fully finished in the traditional sense, but it is ready to use as a soil amendment and will continue improving after application. The texture should be dark and crumbly with an earthy smell. Some small fragments may still be visible, but they will break down quickly once incorporated into garden soil. This material is alive with beneficial microorganisms that will continue working to improve your soil long after you apply it. Using quick compost effectively requires understanding what it offers and what it still needs. Fresh quick compost is biologically active and can temporarily tie up nitrogen as it finishes decomposing. To avoid any negative effects on plants, mix it into soil a few days before planting or apply it as a top dressing around established plants rather than directly against stems. The microorganisms in quick compost will colonize your soil and create the living ecosystem that healthy plants require. You are not just adding nutrients, you are adding life. The volume reduction during this process is significant. A full container of kitchen scraps and carbon materials will reduce to roughly 1/3 of its original volume by day 7. This means you can process substantial amounts of waste even in a small container. I run my system continuously, starting a new batch as soon as I harvest the finished product. The steady stream of quick compost keeps my garden supplied with fresh organic matter throughout the growing season. The impact on plant growth is immediately visible. Soil amended with quick compost retains moisture, better drains more effectively, and provides slow-release nutrition that synthetic fertilizers cannot match. Plants grown in living soil show greater resistance to pests and diseases because the microbial community supports their immune systems. Roots penetrate easily and access nutrients efficiently. The difference between plants grown with and without quick compost is dramatic and becomes more pronounced over time as the soil ecosystem matures. Beyond the garden benefits, this system solves the problem of kitchen waste completely. Instead of paying for garbage disposal or feeling guilty about sending organic matter to landfills, you are creating value from what would otherwise be trash. The satisfaction of closing this loop is hard to describe until you experience it. What was waste becomes resource. What was expense becomes savings. What was guilt becomes pride in a system that makes sense. The environmental implications extend beyond your property line. Organic waste in landfills generates methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. By composting at home, you eliminate those emissions entirely. The soil you build sequesters carbon, pulling it from the atmosphere and storing it in stable form. Every batch of quick compost you produce is a small act of climate repair that adds up over time. I have used this 7-day method for years now, and it has become as automatic as any other kitchen routine. Scraps go into the collection container instead of the trash. Every few days I build a new pile. Every week I harvest finished material. The rhythm feels natural because it mirrors the cycles that sustain all life on Earth. Nothing is wasted. Everything transforms. Death becomes food for new growth. If you have been throwing away your kitchen scraps or avoiding composting because you thought it was too slow or too complicated, I hope this changes your perspective. 7 days is all it takes to turn waste into wealth. The process requires minimal space, minimal equipment, and minimal time. What it produces is invaluable, and the skill once learned stays with you forever. Start today with whatever scraps you have and discover for yourself how quickly transformation can happen when you create the right conditions and trust the process to deliver results that will exceed your expectations.